Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar of what our dog agility community wishes they knew from the start. My name is Lynn Madden. I'm a OneMind Dog instructor from Australia. And when I asked the community of what piece of advice they wish they knew before they started agility or when they just started, we got flooded with really great tips. And the great thing about it is they were very similar in what they were all suggesting would have been the piece of advice they wish they knew when they were starting. So we have collated them here for you, and we're going to go through them now so that you've all got the benefit of that information. So the OneMind Dog method started with Yanita and Yako, and it all started because of Tekla. So I'm just going to play a quick video for you all to have a look at.
It began when Yanita's Border Collie, Tekla, lost her hearing in 2003. There was only one option left: to handle her dog without any verbal commands. And so began a journey of discovery. Learning from mistakes and trying different approaches. What happens if my chest is pointing to this direction? How important is the angle of my feet? What does the position of my hands say? Gradually, Yanita, with Tekla's help, learned to understand agility from the dog's perspective. What kinds of signals a dog reacts to on the course. OneMind Dogs is based on dogs' natural behavior. Any dog, from anywhere in the world, will instantly understand us. We achieve good results without a lot of repetition, because for dogs, it simply makes sense.
Okay, so the main things that most of the people shared were these 5 points: that the foundations are key. The 3 C's are vital, and we'll learn about them in a later slide. Reward your dog, understanding what the dog's line and parallel lines are, and to train the dog in front of you. So these were the main topics that kept coming up again and again in the advice we had from our community. So the first one we're going to look at are the foundations, and that foundations are key. Foundations are the building blocks of agility. They are the essential skills and concepts that you're going to teach your young dog that will successfully train our agility stars in the future. When we start our foundations, we're really teaching them the skills in really small blocks and teaching it from that ground level up so that we're layering in more complex behaviors as we go along. And it makes the training easy for the dog to understand. We're training them in their natural understanding of how dogs learn and how they perceive. And so it makes it fun and exciting for the dog. So we want our dogs to have an awesome attitude and love for the game. We're teaching them how to offer a behavior. We're teaching them how to focus and drive forward and how to follow the handling. So we're building skills in fun, small little games that the dog doesn't even realize that they're learning agility skills and that we can take into the future. The one piece of advice I have for most people that are running at competitions and things are going wrong, to go back to foundations. Go back to the foundations for the thing that's going wrong, and you will fix most of your issues. So why are foundations important? Foundations really help build that relationship and connection between the handler and the dog. You really need to have that bond between you and your dog so that when you're out there running the course, there is a real level of trust between the two of you. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is to build that relationship and that connection so that you are able to really communicate with your dog on a deep level. You also want to be able to balance handler and obstacle focus. So mostly when dogs are young, they become quite handler focused because all the food comes from us. Exciting things happen with us. In agility, we need them to also focus on obstacles. So we want to build that skill quite early on and then balance it nicely so that we have that beautiful balance when we're out on the agility course. And then we're also utilizing the knowledge of how dogs learn and how they naturally react to our handling to make things easy and fast for our dogs to learn. So we're going to watch some videos on this. So All of these videos will have the puppy foundation skill and then what the skill looks like when you've taken it to the further degree. So the first thing we're going to look at is some jump offering. My young dog Drift, I have doing the jump offering when he was a puppy, and then I did some jump offering in my backyard this weekend, and this is what we're going to show here. So this is the beginning stages of the jump offering. You can see I'm just waiting for him to offer the behavior, and then I am basically giving him the reward marker of yes, and then rewarding him. So I'm saying yes, reward. And so this we did from when he was a gangly puppy. I think he was about probably 20 weeks old here. And you can see he's happily offering that behavior. And then we kept taking this skill further and further. And so now this was in my backyard this weekend. Same puppy, 3 years later. And the idea is to build the skills so that the dogs understand that their job is to go and take that jump. This will help in your ability to send your dog forward to things, gain distance, and just have that understanding of what their job is. And so this is sort of the level you want to get your dogs at when you're doing this jump offering. At that foundation level, this is where we want to build it to. And so you can see he's quite happy to go and offer that jump from anywhere. Next we have is the chest laser. This is my favorite thing to do with puppies and young dogs because it just shows how well dogs understand our body language. And so in this video, you'll see Drift, I think he was 10 weeks old when we first did this. And then you'll see a short clip of Nikki and her dog, Poe, or I think it might be Shay, doing this in a sequence on the site on how we can use this chest laser skill later in our handling. So this is Drift as a puppy. You might just restart that. There we go, slow motion. So you can see I'm changing my chest laser to help him come through and weave those jumps. And then we have Nikki and Shay, and you can see she's using her chest laser to get those jumps happening from a distance. And so it's the same concept that I used with Drift as a puppy. And you're just using your chest laser to tell the dog about where you want them to go. So this is why building the foundation skills are so important. And the last one we have is forward focus. This is the one thing that I really would like people to focus on. So the forward focus stuff is where you're really going to get your distance handling working for you. So I have a video of this. So this is my young dog Drift doing the forward focus as a puppy. Sending forward to the dish. And this is all you're doing at that foundation level is we're sending him forward to the dish, and that's the skill that he's learning. And so then that becomes the skill that we teach here, driving forward to the food toy. When I've got a helper and we're teaching him how to drive forward and focus on his obstacles. Good boy. So all done at a very young age as a puppy, and it's just a fun game for him. And this is in my backyard this weekend, and we're doing a little bit of forward focus work. Where I'm just relying on him to drive the line of jumps without me there. And this time I'm now going to layer this obstacle in the middle here. And you can see he has no questions about driving forward on the line of jumps. And so this is the sort of things that you can expect to have when you really focus on that foundation exercises and working through those. And that's why our community thought they were like the number one thing that we should be looking at. The next thing we want to talk about are the 3 C's. And just so everyone's on the same page of what they are, the 3 C's are a really fundamental concept behind the OneMind Dog method, and it's connect, commit, and cue. These are the things that when I was starting to learn, when I heard this and understood this, it really clicked for me and changed how I looked at agility. So they are the key to proactive handling. They're all connected with each other, and the handler needs to have all 3 of these working together well for things to go well on course. So let's have a look at them. What are the 3 C's? The first one is connection. It is the handler's number 1 job to connect with their dog so the dog can then focus on the obstacles. So dogs in general like to connect with the handler. You'll see it when they come out of tunnels. The first thing they do is look for you. So if we're providing that connection, it means that they are able to not worry about reestablishing the connection with us because we've already done that for them, and they can focus on driving forward to the next obstacle. And so that's our job, is to make that happen. It doesn't mean you have to be staring them in the eye. It just means you need to have the side of the face showing to the dog so they understand that their connection's been established, they can move forward. Next, we have commitment. And this is probably the hardest concept for people to get. And it's still something that I work on today. And commitment means when the dog commits to proceed to the next obstacle. It's usually when the dog takes their eyes from you to the obstacle that you want them to take. That's a really hard thing to see sometimes, and it takes practice to do. So when you're all out there training your dogs this afternoon, tomorrow, see if you can start to pick when they're committing to the obstacle. And when they commit to that obstacle, we want them to stay committed to that obstacle, because that's a really important skill about being able to send your dog to an obstacle. When they can commit, you can go somewhere else. And so building those skills, again, at that foundation level, will really make an important impact on being able to handle proactively, and also get in front of your dog and handle at a distance. The next one is cue. That's when the handler cues where the dog is going to go next. It can be physical cues, it can be verbal cues, but you need the dog to understand where they're going before they take off for the jump. So these are things that we do all before the dog, like between obstacles. So we want our dogs to take an obstacle, they will land. We want them to reconnect with us. They're moving towards the next obstacle. Once they commit to that, I cue where they're going next with a handling technique or like some sort of body language or verbal. And then once I've cued where they're going next, we move on, they land, I connect. And so then you're doing that between every obstacle. If you start thinking about handling in terms of that, then you're able to really proactively handle the course. Next is reward your dog. This is a really important piece for me, because I don't think we tend to reward our dogs enough. I am a big believer of making sure my dog understands it's done an amazing thing. So when you're rewarding, my biggest piece of advice is to be genuine in your awards. Be happy, be excited for what your dog has just done, because dogs know when you're faking it. And so if you can be genuine with your awards, your dog is really going to get into the game with you. So some things I want you to remember about rewarding is, firstly, why do we do it? We do it because it tells our dog that what they did is correct. And if we reward something, we get more of something. So when they do something right and we make a big deal about it, they will tend to pick that option again next time and remember it. So that's why we reward. What we reward is a really important piece. There's a lot of myths out there that you can only have a good agility dog if they tug, or any of these sort of things. But every dog is different. And so you want to make sure you choose a reward that the dog finds rewarding. If your dog loves toys, great. If they love tugging, wonderful. If they're a foodie, awesome. If they love praise, use that. So be conscious of what your dog finds rewarding. Who? It's obviously you. You want your dog to be in it with you when you're rewarding. So be genuine and have a really good time. When? You need to understand when to reward to get the desired behavior. So your timing needs to be really good so that you're rewarding for the behavior you want and not something that the dog may think they've just done. And then you find out you've rewarded something weird that they now are offering a behavior of. And all of you that have shaped things have done that. And then all of a sudden you've got this behavior that you go, I'm not exactly sure how I got that, but it's all about timing. And the other thing, especially when it comes to handling techniques, is understanding where to reward to get the desired result. So that forward focus video, it all depended on rewarding on the dog's line and the dog driving to it. So that's where I place my reward. I want my dog to drive forward and get that. If I wanted my dog to go to a backside of a jump say, I would place the reward on the backside. Those sort of things, understanding where to reward to help your dog understand what you're asking of them. The next thing that the community told us that they really wish they knew more of when they started out was the dog's line and parallel lines. So what exactly is the dog's line? The dog's line is the optimal path your dog will take to run a sequence or a course. It is the line you want the dog to take in order to run that course smoothly. If your dog deviates from that path, it can cause issues. It can cause them to take off courses and that type of thing. Your dog's line will determine what handling techniques you use. So, for example, in the picture here, we have the dog either wrapping or slicing. And so that is going to, whichever option you choose there is going to determine what handling technique you use. We also have ideas in our head about the lines dogs should be able to take on course, and we need to understand what is in fact reality of our dog and what is fantasy. Most of us have this idea that our dogs will just turn on a dime, bend around wings like bananas, and in reality, that is not the case. And then there is more than one way to create the dog's line. So these are the sort of concepts that we're talking about. When we're talking parallel lines, we're talking about how dogs naturally move with the handler. So this is really natural for the dog. You can see in this picture here, you've got your Nita's path and then the dog's path. And so dogs will naturally run on a parallel line with the handler. The direction of your motion is going to be how you can tell your dog where you want them to go. And the parallel line, as long as you stay on the parallel line, the dog will stay on that line as well. And so that's how we help our dog at a distance, is by starting them on a parallel line and then being able to handle that at that distance. And so these are the sort of concepts that are really important to understand when you're starting out, so that you can see what's happening with your dog and really help your dog understand what you're asking of them. I'll just pause that. This is a video of what happens when your parallel line doesn't match what you're asking the dog to do. This is the same setup that we had in the forward focus, where the dog is going to, we want the dog to go down these two jumps, but my parallel line doesn't show that. So we're going to do one where the parallel line is right and one where I've not done the parallel line correctly. So you can see here, my parallel line runs with the jumps. And so I'm layering that jump, but the dog is understanding to keep on that same parallel line to me. This time when I've sent, I've turned my shoulders too sharply and start moving in the other direction, and you can see drift comes and takes that jump. So instead of driving forward, I've turned my shoulders and start moving, and you can see him change his line to match my parallel line. And so that's how we can influence our dogs in agility, by our direction of motion and our parallel line. So it's a really, really good thing to understand. And it was brought up a lot because we've been talking about it a lot recently with a lot of our community, because once you understand the concept of that, it really helps understand what's happening with your dog. And lastly, we have the thought about training the dog in front of you. So no two dogs are the same. Every dog is different. And so what it means to train the dog in front of you is understanding what you and your dog are capable of, and understanding your strengths and weaknesses and working within those. So if you have a smaller, like a smaller dog, don't expect it to be able to drive with huge distances like the herding dogs do. So they can be very breed specific, but they can also vary within the breed. I have 3 very different Border Collies. One is your typical herdy type Border Collie that will tend to like a lot of space. The other is quite clingy and wants you to be quite close to her. So they're very different even within the breed. So you really need to learn your dog. And that's where the foundation stuff becomes important as well, because you learn a lot about your dog when you're doing those exercises. The other thing is, just because your last dog did it this way doesn't mean it'll work for your new dog. And so this is the exciting thing about training, I find, is that they're all different. And when the community sends videos into us at OneMind Dogs, I get to see a wide range of dogs, and they're all different. And the solutions are going to be slightly different for everybody. And so it's all about taking notice of what's happening and then working with your dog's strengths and weaknesses. And then just remember that errors are feedback. It doesn't matter if things go wrong, because that's just information. We use that information to help make it easier for our dogs to understand. So errors are in fact really great things that you can build from. So if something goes wrong, you can stop, think about what happened, and really look at what your dog needs help with to understand. And once they get it, beautiful, you move on and try something else. So training a dog in front of you is so important because, one, it helps protect your dog's confidence. It builds on their natural ability and tendencies, and you learn from each new dog. So like I was saying, my dog Rain, Border Collie, runs extremely fast outside of agility, but in agility, she's quite nervous. She's environmentally sensitive. So I have to work with the dog that I have. And so I protect her confidence. I don't force her to do things. And so we work proactively together. She tells me when she's had enough or can't do it, and then I listen to her. My young dog Drift, he is slightly more, tends to get slightly over aroused in competition environments. And so we're slowly working on his ability to keep his brain under control in those new environments. So they're very different dogs, and I approach them really differently as well. And so that was one piece that came through strongly from our community, is that they wish they knew about just working with the dog that you have, because we all have dreams and aspirations about what we might be able to do with this dog, but we have to really understand the dog in front of us, and that they might not necessarily be able to do that. And so you need to get yourself in a headspace that we work with the dog we have, because we love them. They're our pets, they're our companions, and agility is the thing that we do that's fun. And lastly, our community's collective wisdom is a powerful tool. So these are all the things that we've learned. So make sure that you follow us on social media, and there's lots of people always commenting on those videos and any of our information, and they will share their wisdom as well. And so it's really important to take that on and see if you can fold it into your own training, but also just take the pieces that work for you. So again, these were the things that worked for our community, that they thought if they knew this when they first started out, then they would have had an easier time potentially, and they're wanting to give you a leg up. So this is their wisdom passing on to you. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to catching up with you down the track sometime. Thank you very much.